When you feel like you're drowning in a sea of anxiety, you might feel exhausted because you've been trying for so long to swim away. But eventually you realize that you could float the whole time. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me here today. If you're new, I'm Amanda. Welcome to the channel where we're all about shattering the mental health stigma. If you haven't already, please make sure you make sweet, sweet love to that subscribe button. Give the bell a few kisses so you're not missing any of this content designed to help you with your mental health, help you help someone else. And if you're wanting to put reactions in, I actually have a new way to do that. Follow me over on Instagram, message me, and I'm doing a little raffle every month so you can get your reactions. And so I'll choose one person to do a reaction to. But today I have someone very special with me. I have Rosalie Elliott from Rosalie Reacts, who is a therapist. So I thought, what better way to incorporate a little bit more into our mental health conversation than bring her on for this reaction to Ren.
Hey, hey, I'm so happy to be here, Amanda. Thank you for having me. I'm excited about this one. I think it's going to be really special. I think you'll have a lot to say about it.
A lot of people have been telling me to get into this song, to react to this song, and I felt a little ambivalent about it just because things had been very heavy toward the end of 2023. But I'm ready, so let's do this. Let's react to Rin Suicide. This is my first time, and she's going to be giving me a little insights here and there.
Awesome. I'm excited. Here we go.
Falling through the cracks of the night sky. A light goes out on the other side. Suicide, suicide, suicide. Oh, treading on the tracks in the night time. It never really felt like the right time. Suicide, suicide, suicide. I'm so fucking lonely beneath this. Narcissistic, can't keep a secret. Miscount sheep, I can't sleep, a misfit. Some say trouble, but some say sadistic. Bruises my brother, one time or the other. My skin felt counterfeit, silicone rubber. Bruises my sister, skin pop the blister. Dig deep, resist the feeling when it hits you. Falling through the cracks of the night sky. A light goes out on the other side. Suicide, suicide, suicide. Treading on the tracks in the night time. It never really felt like the right time. Suicide, suicide, suicide. Sick boy, bitten by a tech boy. I feel like it's not me, it's the world that's sick. I'm so fucking washed up and seasick. Masochistic kid with a split lip. 6 feet deep, I can't eat, I'm nervous. Won't stay down cause my body purges. Useless my mother, can't keep in my supper. Skin so pale cause my cheeks leak colour. Truth is my father, you choose your karma. Draw for the sword, then drive through the armour. Falling through the cracks of the night sky. A light goes out on the other side. Suicide, suicide, suicide.
Almost kind of like, yeah, I mean, that's obviously very heavy.
Yeah.
There's this theme of internal conflict with all these references of feeling like a misfit and struggling to sleep and things like that. And did I hear him say narcissist? He felt like a narcissist.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I don't think most people realize narcissistic personality disorder rarely is a disorder that people are self-aware of. So people often have it and don't realize it. And ironically, that's one of the traits of the disorders. It's very hard to be self-aware of. But so to me, he's assigning this label out of internal conflict. It's not really he's a narcissist. He's assigning this out of internal conflict. He's feeling like he has no control, no direction. We've all been
Yep.
there, right? Where we just feel like,
Yep.
where the hell are we going to go from here? But I think that sense of not having control or direction, that's something that will often lead to feeling like a misfit, to having sleeping issues. That's
Hmm.
the kind of thing that exacerbates that, having those challenges. And it sounds like the family dynamic isn't great, where
Yeah.
I heard the mention of bruises on the siblings, so it sounds like there's a family dynamic issue there, which obviously can further deteriorate a person's sense of self. And the description, the part that really hit me was the description of his skin being counterfeit, because we were just talking when we did the reaction to Linkin Park to Breaking the Habit over on your channel. We were talking about how it can feel like our skin is just something that we need to take off and dispose of, or something that isn't real, you know, and that reference to it being silicone and rubber can symbolize a sense of detachment, or again, like a lack of stable identity. The Sick Boy part, I haven't reacted to Sick Boy yet. I haven't listened to that song. So
you're in for a treat.
yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like there's probably some stuff you can tell me there. I think that introduces just the talk of him saying Sick Boy, even though I don't have any context to the song itself. I think it introduces this perspective that suggests the world is sick. It's not him, it's the world, which God, I can relate to when you're sitting there going, well, I'm doing pretty okay, but it feels like everyone is kind of out to get me. And sometimes that's a paranoia. And sometimes we're just surrounding ourselves with people that aren't serving us. And when he's feeling wished up and seasick and describes himself as this masochistic kid with a split lip, I think that's portraying this struggle with self-harm or self-destructive tendencies, or things like that. But like I said, I know that he has that song Sick Boy, and don't give away too much, because I do want to listen to and react that. But does that tie into the message here?
Yes, I won't say much at all. I would only say that the pig head, pig mask, and the Sick Boy reference, and this clip, that lyric about what you just pointed out, it's not me, it's the world, that is definitely a link to Sick Boy, and that thread between Hyra and Sick Boy, and now this.
Okay, definitely so it's kind of a trilogy. Okay.
Yes, not necessarily a trilogy, but a red thread, if you will.
Okay.
And of course, you know, there's different ways to maybe even interpret what the pig here could mean versus what it may symbolize in Sick Boy or in Hyren. But yes, I won't say too much about it, but I think even using those words Sick Boy and what you just said about feeling like it's the world, maybe even due to paranoia, or because that was very wise on your part, recognizing that in our suffering, you know how it says misery attracts company. In our suffering, sometimes part of the dilemma of not getting better is because we are surrounded by the things that are pulling us down. I suppose one could compare that to, you know, with addiction, we have to remove ourselves from the system sometimes before we can get better, or we have to remove and cut off ties with certain, you said it, family, right? The siblings, the people in our lives where the world around us is contributing to the sickness. And we may feel like a sick boy or sick girl, not in the sense of yo sick as an awesome, but because we think something's wrong with us, because we're hurting. But actually, we're not sick. We're just in need of some healing.
I'm curious, how did you interpret that narcissistic comment where he refers to himself as a narcissist? How did you interpret that?
I feel, well, a couple of things. I liked what you said about that. I really like that. What comes to mind, and I don't recall exactly what I said when I was watching this for the first time, but what I'm thinking right now is that, well, you made a very good point when you said narcissism, you know, is not self-diagnosable very often. The dilemma of that disorder is that one is kind of, I don't know if oblivious is the right word, but not fully aware of it. With him, I feel like Ren is such a deep thinker and so multifaceted that perhaps he feels, and this is just me interpreting, maybe he even feels weird or almost like questions, is this narcissistic that he's singing about himself or about these things so much?
That makes sense.
Now, obviously, he's not just singing about himself. He's singing, you know, a lot of his songs are relatable to many of us, or he sings about, you know, his friend Joe or other people's experience, be it with suicide or with suffering. But he's dealing with a lot of these topics and just learning, you know, the world of Ren just a little bit. I feel like he would not be above even questioning that. Like, what is our human need to constantly be thinking of us? Because quite frankly, even when it comes to suicide and depression and stuff, we are very us focused, right? It's my suffering, I want to end, my struggle, me. You know, we're looking at the world and assessing it, judging if we like it. We're judging our life and the others around us from our lens. So in that sense, we all have a little bit of that narcissistic trait, you know, not the disorder, but traits of it, where we're so focused on our perception and what we deem insufferable. So perhaps, you know, that's his way of kind of dealing with that too. This, you know, is something wrong with me? You know, am I a masochist?
The reflection, yeah. Yeah, that makes sense, yeah.
Perhaps, but, you know, that's just my thought. That's just my interpretation.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, that really makes sense of there, like I was saying, there's just all of this internal conflict. So it adds another layer to that internal conflict. I also like the animation because it adds another level of detachment of self and that lack of stable identity. I like the way it's animated like this.
I like that. That's really well pointed out. You want me to continue?
Yes.
All right, here we go.
Treading on the tracks in the nighttime. It never really felt like the right time. Suicide, suicide, suicide. Suicide, suicide, suicide. Suicide, suicide, suicide. Suicide, suicide, suicide. Suicide, suicide, suicide.
It's giving me anxiety.
It's hard to take off from the ground when your wings are cut. Your stomach burns when you're drinking from an empty cup. You know the entire ocean came from my tear ducts. I see the world through Fibonacci sequences and double dutch. I guess there's some that's born lucky, there's some that's not. I tried to cut away my bitterness, hatchet job. I locked my youth inside a trunk, inside a pickup truck, then dumped the whole thing over that same bridge the night you jumped. I think about that sometimes, vividly. What it felt like to look down and see tranquility. One sudden movement in a world of possibility. Only one movement to expose our fragility. I fucking miss you, and I miss myself. I miss thinking we were indestructible as well. I miss chilling by the pier cave and kicking back with Callum, Hugo, Sager, Justin, Stevie and the fucking lads. I miss missing that. I numb myself to close the gap. I never even call them up. The distance is my plaster cast. The truth is that the day you jumped, my childhood jumped too. But I still can't find that anger. All I find is missing you, man, I miss you. With all my rhymes, I picture running 5 minutes quicker, I'm right on time. I picture pulling you back over the edge and then we're crying, and holding you, my brother, and telling you that it's fine. Not the way that it worked, cause I was late like a jerk. There's not a day where I could find a way to break from the hurt. Your body missing, so we never got to wave to the hers. I hope you're listening, I love you, man, I miss you absurd. Fuck.
I feel like that first part, it's okay, jiving, and then it went into that, and it was kind of a roller coaster from the beginning. It was talking about the cut wings. My community, a lot of people that have been here for a while know that I actually talked to my therapist because of all of the abandonment I'd felt. There's a scene on Lucifer where he puts his wings around his love interest and protects her, and I bawled and bawled and bawled. It was when I was in my marriage, and I thought, why did I not deserve that protection? You know, so feeling like you lost those wings, whether your own wings or the wings that were protecting you, having wings cut was a really vivid image for me. Obviously, the latter part of this references losing somebody to suicide, and the way he's expressing that is really hard to listen to, because that could have been my son singing that, saying that to someone. And he expresses that sense of, guilt and regret for not being there to prevent it. And as someone who has been in that position, I hear that a lot in my community, and I understand survivor's guilt can be very strong regardless of how a person passes or what the case is, but we can't be everywhere at all times. We can't be, and we can't read people's minds. We can't be in their heads. We can't know their thoughts. We don't always know the right words. And I know we were talking about this prior, you and I, something, and I actually brought this up on my channel. I had a really hard time with the pig mask because I just binged all the Saw movies last year. So the pig mask was making me think of that. But so it didn't have other symbology because I was kind of stuck on that. But it reminds me, it goes back to what you and I were talking about earlier, that something that really helped me cope with the fact that I've lost people in this community, and it breaks me every time. I don't know all these people personally, but there was a part in those films that said, you can't save them. They have to save themselves. You can't help them. They have to help themselves. That's something that's really hard to accept, but we don't always have the words that could save someone as much as we want to. We don't always have that. And I will say that below all that pain I was feeling, I knew that people loved me. I knew that. It wasn't a matter of not feeling any love at all. It was just a matter of, look, I can't do this anymore. I can't deal.
Yeah.
So that was definitely hard to get through that second
It's a
part.
hard song. Yeah, that last part, there's a connection to a song he wrote for his best friend who had committed suicide, who he lost. The person he's referring to there is his friend Joe. So he also wrote a song called For Joe. So that that epilogue at the end is connected to that as well. And it's really heavy. It's personal. I think if I could recall correctly, him then also saying what he's saying in the end and crying is it's all very real footage, very real time grief and processing. It was heavy to watch for me when I watched it for the first time. I even captioned my titled my reaction. I thought I was ready because after seeing several of his stuff, you never know what you're gonna get, but you kind of think, I know this is gonna be maybe heavy or this is gonna be fine. But man, it
I
hit
was
me.
not expecting that right now. I
Nope,
was
same
not.
same for me. Same for me. Before it was like, okay, there's a lot here,
Right.
the music video. I mean, I saw even on your facial expressions, which is kind of cool to have a reaction within a reaction, right? I'm watching you watch something.
It's like
Uh,
reactionception.
I know, yeah. I was like, how far can we go? Who's gonna react to us reacting to this? But even seeing your facial response when watching the movie video and the music video and the details, right? To me, what I found interesting was even that catchy suicide, suicide, suicide. I'm singing in the wrong key, but we're like that, da, 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 da. Like it's almost at what I perceived a little upbeat, right? Before he goes into his
It's kind of
final
like a
words.
mantra almost,
Yes,
like a
exactly.
chant.
Yes, exactly. And so what I had noticed is that hook, but also it being so upbeat was very contradictory to what we may picture a song to be about when we're talking about this topic. And I think that's also the beauty of art and music is that we can address things in different music genres and maybe have a beat or a rhythm or a musical compilation that may seem unconventional, but it's driving home that point. There's this hook, there's this tag, it's getting our attention because we have to talk about this. This has to be
Yeah.
addressed.
And I enjoy
And
the raw and vivid language of this, even if it means he has to
yeah,
censor the word suicide in
yeah,
the song or this
yeah,
video. Even this reaction will probably come with a warning for content, which is good because people need to know what they're about to view
right.
so that they can analyze whether or not they're ready for it. There's one other thing I wanted to
Yeah.
touch on in the lyrics themselves. It's talking about the Fibonacci sequence, and
Hmm.
that was such an interesting perspective. I've never heard somebody bring that up in the context of mental health. But for those of you that don't know, I don't know how many people know the Fibonacci sequence is a series of numbers where each number is the sum of the two numbers previous to it, right? So it's often associated with patterns of growth and harmony, which I think is really cool in the
Beautiful.
context of this. But
Wow.
with the way he's looking at it, I think the mention of seeing he was saying the mention of seeing the world through the Fibonacci sequence. I think that there's so many ways that that can be interpreted, but it suggests to me an attempt to find order and meaning in the midst of chaos and grief, right? You're in the midst of all this insanity
Wow.
that you're having when you lose somebody, particularly to suicide, but in any way, when
Hmm.
you're going through grief, it's not linear. It makes no sense. We don't know what to do. And I think
Hmm.
he's trying to make sense of it. We do that, right? Especially when we lose somebody unexpected like this, we have to try to make sense with it. And he's grappling with this unpredictability of his emotions and he's going
Yeah.
between regret and love. There's this part that's like
Mm.
regret that I couldn't
Wow.
save you, part that's anger of how could you do this? Like, why would you do this? And the part that's I love you, man. I miss you, and
Yeah.
I want to see you again. He's
Yeah.
looking for some sense of structure in
That's
his
good.
experiences. And there's
Ooh.
also the double Dutch part where
Yes.
I think that actually reinforces the duality of those emotions, like the anger and everything. Um, how you can feel so many freaking complex and conflicting things when you're going through grief. It's nuts. You're going, oh, I can feel every emotion on the spectrum in about a
Uh-huh.
minute
Yep.
sometimes. Like
Yeah.
it just
Yeah. Yeah.
cycles through. You can feel them all at the same time. It's really
Yeah.
crazy how people think, okay, we have the stages of grief,
Yeah.
but it's not like, okay, now we're gonna
Not
go through
linear.
one, now
That's
we're gonna
right.
go through two,
If it were like
let's
that,
check that
right?
off.
Probably would be easier if it were like that because we could, see the final stage of acceptance in sight.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I'm headed there, but it doesn't feel like that when you're in the middle of denial or anger or sadness. That's
And
powerful what you pointed out there. That's very, very good. It's powerful what you said, how you analyzed that with that pattern. Because I had learned about the pattern with the numbers, but I don't know if I don't think I associated with the how it's associated with harmony a lot of times, trying to make sense of something, right? Even math, even numbers, the whole idea of mathematics is we're trying to make something make
makes
sense,
sense. Yeah.
logic. But
We're
with
finding the
suicide,
pattern.
it's yeah, I
There
find
is
it cool.
none.
No, yeah, and ooh, yeah, there is none. And even with I like the chords and the notes that he used in that hook, suicide, suicide, almost felt like going down, like
Yeah.
the notes were in decline,
Yep.
which kind of fits with this idea of someone, jumping, someone ending things, or just the gruesome brutality of it, even that skeleton appearing. I don't know if you noticed that with
Yeah.
those AI images, that skeleton appearing in a regular looking person to me also showed, like, for one, what we all are underneath skeletons. We're all skin and bones at the end of the day. We all must die. We have to deal with that. But how it's like the ugly truth. You know what I mean? It kind of flickered through. And I think when it comes about to death and suicide, it's a painful truth we got to talk about. It's not pretty. You know what I mean? We can't.
Yeah. We can't
It's not
candy
flowers.
coat it. We have to
Yeah.
have this conversation, because if we don't, it
Yes.
only perpetuates
Yes.
people feeling like they can't open up. And I'm glad you brought up the
Yes.
skeleton. So I saw the skeleton. I saw what looked like kind of a robot
Yes.
figure,
Yes.
and he had the red eyes. And that, to me, it's okay. He appears evil, right?
Yes.
And when he's talking about suicide,
Oh, yeah.
oftentimes people will say, suicide's
That's good.
selfish. That's the selfish
Oh,
thing to
that's good.
do. You're
Mm-hmm.
evil. You're a bad person for doing that to your
Yep.
family. But you never stop, those people never stop to think, you're asking me to suffer for other people.
Mm-hmm.
You're
Yeah.
asking me to go through this unbearable pain for
Mm-hmm.
other people, as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to encouraging me to find the help that I deserve, the healing that I deserve.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, no, you need to suffer for other people. Think of your child. Think of your family. No, think of yourself. If that
Yeah.
inspires you to stay here, then please absolutely think of your family and think of that. But first and
Yeah.
foremost, you deserve to be happy. You deserve to
Yes.
find that healing. You
From the
deserve,
inside out. Yes.
yes,
That's
you
good.
deserve that. It can't
Yeah.
always just be about someone else. The healing
Yeah.
has to come from within. And we can look at those people as strengths for us. Like,
Mm-hmm.
as we're going through the process, I can think about my son. I can think about, but here's the thing. And I said this before, I was thinking about my family and friends when I was up there. My mind was so distorted that I thought that was the best thing. I
Mm-hmm.
genuinely, when I was on that ledge, thought that jumping was the best thing for my loved ones. I thought I was a burden. I thought that my son was better off without me. That's how I felt at the time. So people that say, think about your loved ones, yeah, I was. I also saw that he's giving money to the guy who's playing music, musician in that tunnel. He's giving money. He's still helping. He's still serving even when he's in pain. And isn't that
Yes.
how we often are? When we're
Yeah.
in that dark place, we find catharsis, we find comfort
Yes.
in being able to help and serve
It's
other people.
therapeutic.
It
It is
is.
is to look outside of ourselves. I feel like it's also a cool little nod to his busking days. Not that, that's all over, but the street musician's life,
Yeah.
honoring that part of himself.
I didn't know that. I
And
love that.
yeah, yeah, he would do,
I love
like,
it.
he does, like, he's a street musician, like his time in the UK and Wales and all over. Sometimes he'll still share clips from back then, where he's like jamming on the street. But yeah, no,
So
you said some
so it's coming full cycle. So he's paying it forward. So because he succeeded and he got through that, now he's paying forward to that person. Just like us.
Oh,
Oh my
yeah.
gosh. Just like us, when we get through that darkness, what are we doing? When we get out of hell, we're carrying the buckets of water back to the people that are still there. He's honoring that person that's still that street musician. He's honoring that former part of himself.
Wow, that's good. Oh,
Whoa,
that's
that's
good.
crazy.
I like that. That's dope.
See, this is what happens when we have
Yup.
conversations, as we learn and we heal and we think of things differently and we have those aha moments. And that's why I always encourage people, whether you are wanting to share your story, whether there's questions that people might have about your story or my story, but I always encourage people, good, bad, and crazy, make sure you're sharing your stories here in the comments, because that's how we shatter the mental health stigma. That's how we prevent
Yes.
suicide, is by
Yes.
talking about our stories and
Yes.
our feelings.
I
People
agree.
get to that point because they feel isolated, they feel alone, they feel
That's right.
overwhelmed. Their pain becomes greater than their coping mechanisms.
I
And
agree.
communication and telling our story is a great skill to put on our toolbox, a great coping mechanism for getting through that darkness. And you will
I
get
agree.
through that darkness.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you so
Yes, you
much,
will.
Rosalie, for joining me here today and for giving your perspective as a therapist, but also as a person who's gone through a lot yourself, it sounds like.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'll share more some other time, but there's been definitely ups and downs, and I know you have, and I hope anyone watching, just like you just said, speak it out, put it into the light, because I think that lonely place you were just addressing in darkness is where we can't see the way because we think we're all surrounded by dark. But the second we speak something, the second we put it out there, we realize we're not alone. The second a little bit of light can break in, yeah, we can realize that there is actually another side of the tunnel, and it
Yeah.
can break through so clearly that at some point it's all illuminated, and then you can dance in the light, like I like to tell
Yes.
my audience. I'm
Yeah, I
honored
don't
that I
think
got to be here.
some people have got to see me dance and it's not a pretty sight, but
That
I
don't
feel good
matter.
about it.
That's
I
what
feel good
matters.
about it. Yeah,
That's what
it
matters.
definitely helps. And there's a lot of healing to be had in our community. So make sure I will link Rosalie's YouTube channel below and the reaction we did to Linkin Park Breaking the Habit. You guys know what that song means to me. I got to introduce it to her. So I was very excited to share that. I will link that below. And I love you guys so much. I'll see you soon.